Super delicious. Nice, light, refreshing. Just what I need for a very sunny Sunday. Or I guess what used to be a sunny Sunday. This is the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe coming in with an episode about gardening. So because it's getting to that time of year where I start to get my veggie garden set up, I thought, let's showcase to everyone what I'll be doing this year. But little did I expect that it seemed like that we're going to be having a chance of thunder showers very soon, so I'm kind of on the edge of my seat, just waiting to see what's going to happen, if anything happens. Because you know what the weather is like. 1 minute they're going to predict rain and sunshine in the morning, but the rest of the afternoon is fine. And then let's say an hour before you punch out from work, then suddenly chance of thunder showers happening. And then you're left wondering, what the hell? My plans are ruined. What can you do? But I guess for now, I thought I'd be able to get a little bit of fuel going in me. So what I have here is a brand new one from Untitled Chapter from Shawinigan once again. I'm telling you, there's so many good ones that they're coming out with that I have to keep trying them, and I've yet to find one that I'm not impressed by. And it's a good session IPA, like 4%, but it's one that I had to get because of the name of it. This one is called Croyances intersubjectives. So if I'm to translate this literally, does this mean intersubjective beliefs? I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. I would think that all your beliefs could be subjective or objective depending on your point of view, but intersubjective? I mean, what does that mean? What do you jump in between? Well, my one theory about this is just with the cover art. Some guy has some wires in his head, see like a very cyberpunk like cityscape, and it looks like he got, I guess, a poor man's Tron universe too. So I'm guessing it's supposed to be like being in the Matrix, where you're just one guy is able to hack into the system, take on these greedy mega corporations that are taking over us now. Does that mean like Google, Facebook? Huh. Big tech. That's what it really is. So what? Intersubjective beliefs is like your beliefs if you're Keanu Reeves jump between the real world, the Matrix, and whatever real... I think I lost my whole purpose for this ramble. But hey, I guess I could just say it's a really good beer. And another one from Tour de Diable I have not been disappointed with. So, I'm going to just slowly sip on this, and hopefully this clears up enough around here that I'll be able to get started on my gardening. Fingers crossed, everyone. I thought I saw some sunshine just a second ago, so I think I'm going to make a judgment call. I'm taking a chance. Let's get going on the gardening. So, I might have mentioned this in a previous video in the past, but just to give you a good recap, when I first moved in, the border of the garden was just covered up with some stone that was around ground level. Might have had some other carpets that were burying it up, so it looked like it was no clear divide. So what I had done last year is something I kind of wanted to do for a long time. Took some old stones here, bought some 2x6s, cut them up to size, so now this gives me a nice divide for a garden bed here. So that means that now if I wanted to put more soil, I don't have to worry about it overflowing onto my walkways or out of the surface, because then it's all going to be contained here. So yeah, I can fill this up properly and put my plants even deeper than I need. Funny enough, this strawberry plant I planted like maybe 2-3 years ago, and it keeps regrowing. It almost feels like it might have been an annual, but it still seems like it's a perennial that will regrow. So I'm kind of curious what the fruit of labor is. Whoop, starting to rain, better quit. We just got a bit of a sprinkling, but no heavy rain at all. I swear, trying to keep track of the weather is like trying to win a lottery, or trying to figure out what a politician is talking honestly. I don't know, but I'm taking another chance. So yeah, I showed off my strawberry plant, showed off the garden wall. Now I'm going to be putting in some fresh soil, because this stuff takes a lot. As your soil gets a lot more compacted, you won't have to add to it. Now, in previous years I just used like black earth, just to dump it in there, and because I was trying to be cheap and didn't want to spend money, I just used minimal amounts, which probably didn't help, among other reasons. But I found that 2 years ago the best mixture that I had was actually this stuff here, just some basic 3-in-1 landscape mix. This stuff gave me the best growth, and it's a really good mix too, because you got a mix of soil, peat, sand, also has some composted manure. That sounds like a translated the polite way of saying it, you got some shit in here. But hey, sometimes they say shit works best. It actually helps promote growth. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be laying this down, then I'm gonna mix it up, start planting it all around. Ooh, nice smell. Could be a couple of options, a couple of reasons why I'm getting that smell. It could be this chive plant that's been growing well for the last few years, or my random onion. Because I planted onion one year, didn't work out in the garden, but seems to have made its way to various other locations around this. Like, I don't know, it's like it has a mind of its own. It's crawling around, decide to sprout like within the lawn or outside the borders. Crazy how these things work. Thankfully, my old owners had left this weird extendable rake in the yard. This has helped me a lot over the years. Let's get this opened up more. So if you're going to be mixing and loosening up your soil, there's plenty of options you got over there. Plenty of shovels, rakes, this hand rake that I've been using. But something else I enjoyed getting was this garden cloth I picked up from Canadian Tire decades ago as well. Just like the cutter that I had when I was working on my grass. Oh yeah, I haven't posted that video yet. I'm still working on it, but it'll come down the road. This thing is wonderful. Because instead of having to be bent over on your back, and then probably having your back go out for a couple of days, this lets you work upright while you're twisting the soil. You just put it in, twist and lift, and this helps mix it in well. Or, if your soil is really compact, this lets you loosen up so it lets you penetrate with all the water, the nutrients, makes it easier to plant the stuff. It's funny, loosened soil does wonders. Oof. And of course, something else I forgot to mention is, I should have brought some bug spray here, because this area, I get a lot of mosquitoes who like to bite me on the ass, literally. Get out of here. Okay, one bed over here done, 2 more to go. Sure, if you're thinking about what was in this landscaping mix, you would think peat moss, black earth, that kind of makes sense because it's soil, you kind of need that. And manure, as bad as that sounds, that helps promote growth. But you might be asking, like, why would you have any sand in here? Well, it all depends on what you're planting, and it actually does have some other benefits. Like, some plants are actually going to need very sandy soil to grow properly. That's what I figured out once when I was trying to do some watermelon years ago, because that needs a lot of water and a very soily sand to grow properly. Of course, that was one of those years that it was a failure, because when I was trying to grow that, I managed to get a really long vine, but the melons themselves they were trying to grow, they were nothing more than the size of peas. So it didn't really go the way I'd expected it to. But I mean, you live and learn. Figure out things work or don't work just by trying them. And the other benefit too that I learned, sand is actually pretty good at aerating your soil. Meaning that if you have compacted soil, sand will help loosen it up for you quite a bit. So yeah, that's why you would have that in here. Of course, this stuff is good for vegetable gardens, but you can even use it for flower bed too. And you might even be able to use it if you're doing your lawn too. I would imagine, but you wouldn't want to mix it with the rest of your soil here. This really just needs to be a topsoil then, on top of where you're planting your lawn. close to the end. Oh, so many weird things in here. But some of them I know what they are. Like this stuff. This is all old charcoal from when I'm barbecuing. I don't use any chemicals when I barbecue. I just use fire starters that include sawdust and wood. So it's all natural stuff. And apparently if you throw this back into the soil, it's pretty good to give it some nutrients. Whether or not that's actually true, I have yet to find out. All I know is that at least I don't have to dump this in the trash. And of course, something else that's pretty handy to have. If you happen to notice these kind of plants in your garden, pull them out right away. Because eventually they could sprout into a full tree. I've learned that the hard way over the years. I've yet to figure out where they come from, where the seeds come in, and just how they get here in general. It's a bit of a mystery for me. Almost to the end of getting the soil in. I might mix it in pretty well. Oh, shit. Yeah, I guess I can mean that in the literal sense of it, shit. But again, you look at most of these stores, a lot of what they have for fertilizer is like manure from sheep, cow, chicken shit. Yeah, that's what I find funny is that you buy hen manure, which you're walking around with a little bag of chicken shit. But it does work, doesn't it? I do have memories of my grandparents having like literal sheep shit that they would bring over to my parents' house when they were working on their gardens. Apparently that stuff was like the best because it grew the best over there. But it was like unprocessed, the real stuff, so if you're working around it, then brother, that whiff would hit you a lot. And I guess if my mom is watching this, then she would be able to correct me on this somewhere down the road. Man, so many old memories of that stuff. Or at least with the garden. But I kind of always enjoyed working with that stuff since I was a kid. Helped my parents out with the garden, getting stuff planted, cutting the grass. Maybe that's why I started to enjoy doing this manual labor. Not that it's a bad thing, because working your own garden is another good life skill you can have. I think I just have one more bag to work with, and then once that's done, we can get to the planting. That is like the majority of that last bag, all spread into all the garden parts. So next thing will be to plant. Almost ready to plant, because I still have a little bit left in this bag. Actually, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this on top, because this composted stuff should help with this garden patch. Not garden patch. This is the garlic patch that I planted last autumn. That was sort of the inaugural episode of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe. So it's gone from one clove that I planted here to about 16 bulbs that will be ready to sprout and possibly treat very soon. Because there is one more element to this garlic stuff that I'm going to have to cover to make sure that this stuff actually grows properly. Otherwise, you're going to be left with very small bulbs. And this is actually the element that I missed last year. I guess if you're wondering what it is, it's going to be the Garlic Scapes. Allow me to explain. At the top of the bulb, where you have the leaves over here, it's going to thicken up, and then you're going to have a very thicker part right on the top here. Once you see that, you got to cut it off, because if you leave it here, then this is going to start flowering, and that means that all the nutrients in the water that are going to be pulled into the plant are sucked up into the flower. That's not good, because what you want to do is make sure all those nutrients are absorbed into the bulb so you get a good size there. That's the key for good garlic. Yeah, last year, a lot of the different kinds I tried didn't work out as well. But oddly enough, the Ukrainian garlic did the best. I don't know if that's personal bias or not, but I'm going to take it. So I'm just going to lay this on top. Like one of the bulbs. Should still be good. May not be perfect because I just ran out, but hey, this is probably going to give it a good amount of nutrients. Something is better than nothing. The soil is all set up. Time to get going on the planting. So I'm sure you're curious to know what I'd be planting this year for my garden. Well, I've had like good years, I've had bad years, I've especially had bad years. Most likely those years when I was trying to be cheap with my materials. But now I think I got a good system going, and I know what grows and what doesn't. That's not to say I'm only going to stick to what I know, because I feel like I want to experiment a little bit this year. Now, one of those experiments that turned out well last year was, where are you? Aha! Jalapeno peppers. Great if you want to have some kick in your meals, and especially good if you ever want to make jambalaya, which I one day have to cook and show off to everybody from start to finish. But I'm doing 2 plants. Last year I got at least a good dozen bulbs from this, or at least a good dozen peppers, so that, I'd say, is well worth the while. I'm going to try also this year, Bellboy sweet pepper. It's supposed to be like a green pepper. Could be tricky at times. I just have to make sure I choose the right location. And next is going to be a classic, 5 heads of romaine lettuce. Out of everything I plant, this is always a thing that's consistently good in here, so I'm not going to be disappointed at all. Of course, when you plant that, make sure you pick off the leaves eventually. Don't let it grow so high, and let it flower, because then it becomes bitter, and it's not really good to eat. I'm going to be doing some regular tomatoes as usual, but I went with Celebrity Red. Yeah, celebrity tomatoes. These things are probably grown in Hollywood. They're going to make you famous, boy. Next, I guess I'm going to experimental territory now. I've talked about my love of eggplant a lot while I'm grilling in one of the many episodes that I've had. You know, top right corner. But I thought, why not try to grow it myself? So I have a pink Italian eggplant plant. Eggplant plant. That's a weird name. This is going to be one of my experiments of the year. I'm going to hope this turns out well. And afterwards, table cucumbers, as opposed to floor cucumbers. These are like your regular cucumbers you get in the store. I was almost tempted to get pickling cucumbers, or possibly Lebanese cucumbers. The only thing about the pickling cucumbers is that sometimes they grow so much that you're not going to be able to fit them in the jar. These are a decent size if you want to slice it up, have it on the side, serve it in a salad, and etc. Let's see, I'll get into more of my experimental stuff. Zucchini. Plain old green zucchini. I'm gonna love this. And something for my mom, because I'm gonna do a few here, save some for her as well. Onions. Some yellow and white onions. We'll see how these turn out. And hopefully they grow in the garden and not on my lawn. That would be like the ultimate failure for me again. And the rest of it is all going to be like herbs and such, but I'm going to show that off very soon. So, on that note, let's get to it. In previous years, I've always used this pot to be able to grow my herbs, just because of the amount that I would have needed. I only put like maybe a good 4 of them at a time per year. But thanks to some tips from one of my friends, I'm thinking I'm abandoning the pot, and I'm going to be taking this plot. Something I was told is that basil, one of my favorite things, grows better when it's grown from the ground than if it's grown in the pot. Usually in past years I would always use this for flowers like annuals, and while that would be nice and I'm still going to do those, I think I'm going to expand my herb garden a little bit this year, which I haven't shown off. So that'll be step 1. Okay, so I'm guessing my centerpiece here, or my estimated centerpiece, is going to be my basil. That, if there's ever any standards in an herb garden, basil's always going to be the most regular thing you plant. You can't do anything without that. Now this year I got sweet basil for myself. I don't know what makes it so sweet, but I've done this in the past, actually, and it's always done well for me, so no complaints. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going to submerge it a little bit below the soil, and I'm using one hand, so I only dirty one hand, just like that. So we'll see how this grows, and then if all goes well, this thing should become massive. That would be my hope. For my next piece, I love having mint. But for years I've been growing Moroccan mint. This I've actually first discovered around Concordia in my, like years ago. It was a coffee/tea shop that used this for a tea, and it was actually one of the strongest ones I ever tried. So I've kind of stuck with this ever since. And this thing grows pretty well too. Let's try right here. There we are. Grabbing this, throwing it in, and covering it up once more. If this thing grows pretty well like in previous years, this is going to become massive. It actually got invasive with all the other parts of the plants. Next thing I'm going to be doing is Greek oregano, as opposed to standard issue oregano. But I kind of like this one. It's very plentiful. I've been using a lot of oregano like for potatoes and other cooking. I guess the trick with this, if you're going to be cooking with this stuff, you do have to make sure that it's, here's the other glove. You do have to make sure that you kind of cook it for like a good 10-15 minutes because it has a very pungent taste generally. That's a way to kind of balance it out. Up next is going to be coriander, I guess. I was trying to look for brand new stuff to do in this herb garden. Brand new stuff. And coriander is something that was actually recommended by one of my friends. The thing about this though, it's got a taste that's not for everybody, but it does wonders for some recipes. Apparently coriander or cilantro is actually really good in tacos. So that means I'm going to have a reason to make some homemade tacos one day too, amongst other things. Personally, when I think coriander, I think about my steak spice, because that's actually one of the key elements to there when you're making it. Well, I think of steak spice, but the other thing I think about too are those people on dating apps that say that if you like coriander and cilantro, it's a no-go. Apparently a deal breaker when you're trying to meet people is if you like coriander. Huh. Somehow I thought there were other questionable things that were deal breakers. Not your choice of herbs. The next herb I'm going to be putting in is one that I've started to enjoy a lot over the years, and it's chamomile. So chamomile is a taste that's not for everybody also, but if you do enjoy it and you have it in tea, it does have a very relaxing effect on you. It really calms your nerves. So I do enjoy when it's with lemon or other stuff, but I think if I have this here, then I'll just end up making some mint chamomile tea for myself. It's gonna make a nice blend, as always. I seem to have a lot more space than I expected now, so I might have to do a second round of stuff. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So another one of your key elements for planting is sometimes your location. This is something I learned when I was doing my jalapenos a while back. 2 years ago when I tried to first plant it, it didn't grow well, and I think it only got like maybe 2 peppers maximum. But I realized that it was crowded off by a cucumber plant that kind of surrounded it, and also that it was in a very shaded area. I've learned that these things actually take sunlight to be able to grow properly. So I'm repeating the same strategy I did last year, which was putting them up at the front, right by my strawberry plant, because this, oh, for Pete's sake. Yeah, this actually grew really well up at the front here because I had enough sunlight, and of course you're watering too. Just don't forget to water this stuff. Mosquitoes. So one here, and I'll do another one right at the front. Yeah. In the last few years, because of my success and failures, sometimes what I was trying to do was be a minimalist, like only grow what I know is going to grow. But because I realized too that I have enough space in here that I don't have to be too spacious, I am going to experiment a little bit too, find out what else is going to grow. Yeah. Oh, that was kind of tricky to get out. Shouldn't be too tricky. All right, double pepper over here. Next, I'm going to give a shot to this bell pepper and hope this year it actually gets some success. I think this one I did the same problem with my jalapenos. Too far back, not enough shade, So I think I'm gonna just put it like right here within the general vicinity, and hopefully that actually clears it up and lets it grow properly. And actually gets me a good pepper too. There we are. So I'm gonna use the same strategy. Make sure the soil submerges it just a little bit more here. There we go. Now next is gonna be my eggplant. This is gonna be like the experiment of the year. Unless I decide I wanna make another trip and get some other stuff. And I probably will too. Because I haven't gotten any flowers for the other flower patches I usually like to plant. So I may need to get a bit more to get this all full. And make this my personal oasis for the summer. Since I'll most likely be hanging out in my yard for most of the time. Alright. You're here. 40 to 30 centimeters. Okay, maybe I should transplant this a little bit more here. I'm so used to using inches and feet because of construction-related activities, but sometimes you gotta know the centimeters too. There, right here you'll go. So, next thing I'm going to be doing is planting my tomatoes into here. So a couple of tips that you're going to need in case you've never planted a tomato before. They are going to rise, so they are going to need some support. People may use some giant stakes to hold it in place, but me, I actually use these things I got from my mom's shed that she's had for years, I think since I was a kid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this into the ground, put the plant on the interior of it, and then over time it's going to be able to use all these ridges for a little bit of support. Hopefully they go well. So let's try to space this out properly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, I got my placement here. So this should give me a bit of room for when I put my cucumbers and my zucchini. And on the off chance I decide that, you know what, I want to add one more item to this. And I realize that I don't have to have everything too spaced out in here. There is room for expansion. Okay, nice. So I am gonna dig out the hole first here. Got that in the center. Then I'm going to start breaking apart the styrofoam. Good thing that's recyclable. There. And luckily these things are all bound together that they're going to be able to stick together. You'll have a good amount of dirt, and you'll be able to shove it in as much as you want. I'm using the same principle, shoving it in deep, so that it's going to grow properly. So that's one down. And let's do the next one. Oh, piece of wood chip. I forgot I was burning some wood. Come on, boy. All right, this is in. Burying you up. So, with all the soil that I put in too, this is also going to rise a bit because there's soil and other plants attached to here, so that will help as well. I think I'm realizing that I can't see what I'm doing. Let's change camera angle for maximum efficiency. Man, this thing is heavier. Probably got leftover roots from old plants. Okay, there you are. Pack it in. Give it extra support. There we go. 3 down, 2 more tomatoes to go. 1 more here. There we go. That's all the tomatoes. On to the next step. Okay, I'm getting this out of the way. So the next thing I'm going to do are my cucumbers. Something I learned from experience in the past is that if you just keep these at ground level, then it's just going to grow all over the place. The vines are going to be everywhere. You might curve your fruit. The fruit meaning your cucumbers that grow with this, so it could be a potential mess. So what I'm putting in right now is a trellis that's made of powder coated steel. I bought this years ago for like some other kind of planting. It never came to use, but it actually came in real handy for the cucumbers. Because what happens is that as these plant and then they grow these little vines that are going to latch on to all of these ridges and bars. So that gives it a little vine that's going to go upwards towards. Not a bad method if you ask me. It sure gets the job done. So I'll do that here. Dig this up. And then once again pull it out. And split it 4 ways. Apparently I learned that cucumber doesn't really grow well when it's really cold. So meaning that if I had done this earlier in the year, there's a pretty good chance that this thing would have died off. It's tricky sometimes with planting. Some stuff grows well in the cold. Other stuff, it's a lost cause. It's like potatoes. That's one thing that grows really well. How do you screw up potatoes at all? There's an expression that, you can't really screw up mashed potatoes. Like, what am I talking about again? Oh, boy. So you'll notice that I'm not exactly putting them all at the same size. I'm kind of spreading it out so that it's not going to overlap too much when it overlaps onto the vines. Huh, old roots. Okay. So that should be good. And this should give enough sturdiness too for when it does grow. Now I have one more vine to plant over here, like my zucchini, so I'm starting to think that I may need to go pick up a second trellis to make this grow properly too. Oh well, more supplies, more goodies. Okay, the last vegetable, or at least one of the last vegetables I have is my romaine lettuce. Once again, this one could be spread out pretty well, and not too spread out. So like maybe around here, and then this stuff also breaks apart that... Alright, so I get like a good 5 of them, because it seems like that's like the best amount that I can get, without it all going bad too. Okay, right here, that's gonna do. So here, I'll do one right here as well, because these things do get kind of wide, but not too excessive wide. And again, great for sharing too. Because it's so plentiful, it means I could actually give some away to family and friends like I did last year. And they're always appreciative of the crops as well. So that's all of my main veggies. I think I have one more thing I want to take care of too. Oh yeah, and this leaves me enough space, like from over here to my garlic, in case I want to add a few other goodies. Alright, all these things are in. Oh well, still a bit of space in between where my strawberries, peppers, and eggplant are, so I think I'm going to try something out. I'm going to try some of these onions that I bought for my mom. See if they're actually going to grow in the right spot this year. Might have already mentioned it, but you know, it doesn't hurt to mention it yet again. So the idea here is that usually we used to do these in bulbs, but sometimes they did not come out as expected. So at least when they're grown partially like this, it may give us a little bit of a jump start. A branch here. And I'm going to try one more. So what's this? White onion. Okay, white is on the left, and then red will be on the right. And I'm going to use the same setup over here. There. I got place for one more batch right here. All right, all these onions are good, and I still have enough soil that I'll be able to keep this preserved until I bring it to my mom's. All right, awesomeness. So with this green space, or at least this space of soil still left over, I'm thinking I do have a bit of an idea of what I can work with now. I did buy a couple of other plants. It's not necessarily an herb, but it might help me out just in general here. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to be planting another type of geranium, believe it or not. But this is the thing. This is called a lemon geranium. It seems like a very odd idea, but what I've done with these in the past is you put them in, and apparently mosquitoes really hate the scent of this. So if you're going to put that down, and sometimes I guess rub yourself on the leaves of this, you're going to get the scent of lemon, and that's actually going to act as a natural repellent. Sometimes it seems to work. Other times, it's hard to tell. But I kind of like the sentiment no matter what, so I'm making the call, I'm putting it in. That's one plant, and I have one more item. So I'm not going to let this soil go to waste in this pot over here, so I'm going to probably be using these remaining pots for mostly flowers and other kinds of stuff. But in this case, I'm going to be doing something that I kind of wanted to replace a little while ago. What I have now is a Munstead Lavender. This is something I planted when I first started gardening in this house, and I love this stuff. It brings a really nice scent to the entire yard. Problem is that the one that I planted a while back, it seemed like 2 years ago it suddenly died and just never recovered whatsoever. It's like it dried out and then just wilted. So I'm hoping that this year it's going to be perfect enough that I can get that replaced. And I seem to have a good amount of nutrients in here that this should grow well, hopefully. And it's starting to rain again now. I guess at least I had some time to get this all prepared. So I'm guessing I should just start wrapping up all this stuff, let the rain water all my plants, and then I'll probably do another video down the road for when I get to part 2 of my gardening. Gardening. Sure is a lot of work sometimes, but you know what? It relaxes you, gives you peace, one with nature, even if you're with mosquitoes. So this was a Green Thumb edition of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe. I'm signing off now, so thanks for watching everyone. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button below, give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying this material, and be sure to spread the cheese everywhere you can. Share the love. See y'all later. Now if you'll excuse me, I gotta do one last thing before it starts to rain. I gotta dump a toilet. Future episode, everyone. Stick around.